All right, next up, Thor: The Dark World. Now, this is a movie that a lot of people really don't like. I liked this a lot the first time I watched it. I was curious on my rewatch here if I would remain like that, or if I would have a change of heart on this and be like everyone, not everyone, of course, but a lot of other people. And no, I fully enjoyed it this time, just like I always have. So I mean, I get that the villain in this is flat. Like, I get that, and so was it in the last one. So I get that, but that's not really something that I'm all that worried about in movies like this. Would I prefer a great villain? Sure. I think Malekith is, a pretty stock generic villain. That said, I did really like the look of him, and I did really like the look of all the villains in this. The design of everything in this movie is just freaking phenomenal. Just the costume design, the creature design, the character designs, the costume designs, the set designs, everything. The designs in this movie are gorgeous. This is such a pretty movie. Even if you're not counting like the beautiful people in them, like freaking Natalie Portman or the chick who plays Sif. Ooh, she is beautiful. And what's up with that like little I don't know, jealousy that Jane has towards Sif for like a second? She kind of looks at her like, oh, there's my competition here on Asgard. I better look at, like, that's really never explored. I don't know. I feel like they just felt like they kind of struck out with movie one. They tried hard with movie two to get it back. They couldn't, so they just like ditched everything with Thor Ragnarok, and we're just like, we're getting rid of Jane. We're getting rid of all this stuff. We're done with all of this. We tried with these characters. They're just not working. Moving on. Which I love Thor Ragnarok, so whatever. But I don't hate it. I just, there feel like there's some thread lines, through lines that were set up and just, don't ever get explored. But it is what it is. So we got the Dark Elves here. This movie kind of reminded me of a mix of Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and Star Trek. So the villains looked very Star Trek-y. This whole opening sequence, which is very fantasy Lord of the Rings, which, if you know me, Lord of the Rings is my shit. So this whole opening, with the Dark Elves and the ether and all that, and they buried the ether, and reminds me a lot of like the opening of Lord of the Rings. Not as good, but what is. And then a lot of the spaceship stuff that they're flying around in and all that, very Star Wars looking. So you got a combination of three things I really love in this movie. So of course I'm going to be on board with a lot of the stuff within here. So Loki is in chains, coming back from the Avengers. I love that in Phase 2 movies that there's so much connection, and everything that happened in Avengers really does have weight and plays in heavily into what's going on in this, and in Iron Man 3, and in Captain America Winter Soldier, and not so much Guardians of the Galaxy. It plays into a teeny bit, but that's so far away. It really wouldn't make sense to play into it too much. But I love that all of these three films are so heavily affected by Avengers, because that makes the connected universe thing feel like it matters. You watch other movies that have tried this, there's not really an attention to that. They don't really care. And the attention to detail here shows, and I, myself, for sure, appreciate the shit out of that. So Thor can't stop thinking about Jane, and Jane is trying to get on with her life because it's been years. Thor came to freaking Earth, fought in New York, and then left again, and Jane is like, okay, Dick, I thought you couldn't come back. And, well, I guess she didn't know that he couldn't come back, but she was like, so he came back, but not for me? I mean, she has to be like, okay, he did save the fucking planet and whatnot. And when he does come back and he tells her what he was up to, she's like, well, I mean, I guess that's not the worst explanation. It's a cute moment, but like, we're never really explained what happened there. I mentioned this in my Avengers video of how, okay, the Bifrost is just fixed, and we don't really explain that much at all. If it was explained, it was brushed over very quickly because I don't remember hearing it. And in this movie, same thing. Nothing. I thought for sure they were going to kind of explain it here. Nope. Bifrost just reforged. All is well. Heimdall's back at his fucking position. Good. Loki says you'll never see her again. I guess maybe he was just bluffing. Maybe he didn't know how Thor knew about how the Bifrost worked, and if he would have, he would know that you could rebuild it in like a week. I don't know. I don't know what to think of that, but there you go. Her date with this dude, like, isn't that guy's name like? Oh, I'll probably say it right. This Chris O'Dowd, isn't that who that is? It's a funny little moment. I like it. And then now. Kat Dennings. What's her character's name in this? I can't remember. Doesn't matter. But she's a character that's kind of risky. She's a character that's risky because she's got that humor to her that is either gonna, it's either gonna land or it's really not gonna land. Because anybody I've seen talk about this movie, if they don't like her, they really don't like her. I like her. I think she's fun. I think she's cute. I think she's, she's fine. She's good. I like her there. But man, I have seen some people hate on her, and I get it. Like when I see her here, I'm like, ooh, this could get irritating really fast for someone who isn't into her. Then they find this anomaly. So these kids show them that there's this truck with like almost no gravity. There's freaking storage containers like piled up on each other, and these kids are just having a blast. And then they find this portal, and it throws it, and it like loops back on itself, back and forth, back and forth. Reminds me of the game Portal 2. You guys ever play that? Great game. Good game to play with a friend, especially like a girlfriend if you want to work on your communication, because you've got to communicate to play that game together. Great freaking game. Still not sure of why when you drop it through, sometimes it comes back and sometimes it doesn't. Like they find that it's just outside, like maybe it's the angle that they put it at. So like once it starts going fast, but it only takes one time to go through. So I guess it's just the angle you drive it, but I feel like the loop should be, I don't know. I thought that was interesting that they never came back. I thought they were going to explain that, but there was some demon in there or some fucking thing that was like grabbing them sometimes and sometimes not. But I don't know. Jane disappears for 5 hours, having only feel like she was gone for like a minute. She takes on the ether, and when she comes back, it's raining, and it won't rain on her. I don't know. I guess because the ether is in her. Elements don't. I don't know why it won't rain on her, but something's wrong with her. It's pushing. I guess she has like a gravity well, or I don't know. I don't know. And the cop comes up and tries to touch her, blasted. So I guess only gods can touch her. So he takes her, and he takes her up to Asgard. So any part of Thor where it's spent on other worlds besides Earth, I like it much more. Pretty much all the Earth stuff in Thor movies, I'm like, about, and everything on Asgard is awesome. Because that's what I'm there for. I'm there for see Thor in some fantasy world with these freaking golden spires and all this cool, beautiful imagery and all this Earth. Bleh, I've seen Earth. Seen Earth plenty. I'm done with Earth. I get to see it in all the other movies except for Guardians. Like, this is almost always on Earth. So get away from Earth. Go to Asgard. You have that. You have that in your sack there to use, so do it. Do it! And so the elves want to return the universe to darkness, I guess. I don't know why, but that's what they're into. So, yeah, of course. They always want to ruin everything. They always want to kill the whole world or all ruin the galaxies. Like, you live there, right? But that's where they like it. That's how they liked it. They were around before anyone else. They were around during the darkness, and that's what they like. Loki, we find out, has a soft spot for his mom. He might have his issues with everyone else in the family, but his adopted mom there, he definitely cares about, because when she is killed, he freaking tears up that extremely nice prison cell that he lives in by himself. They use that Trojan horse guy to come in to be able to, run amok through Asgard there. That dude is gnarly looking. I love the design of him. He looks terrifying. He is straight out of something Lord of the Rings fantasy, and I just love it. So the mom's killed, as I said. We get their Stan Lee cameo here in the mental hospital. I don't think I mentioned the Stan Lee cameo in Iron Man 3, and I can't really remember what it is now that I'm thinking about it. I must have just skipped over it, which is a shame. Or maybe I didn't notice it in this one. I feel like I did, though. I don't know what it was. Yeah, oh well. And God, my throat is all fucking... it doesn't matter. So yeah, Loki, of course, puts up this image of that he's totally fine in there. That his place is all done up nice and whatnot. And then when Thor tells him to stop with the illusions, he breaks it down, and you see Loki is broken in the corner. He's torn everything in his place apart. And he's actually broken by the fact that his mother is dead. So he goes to Loki for help. Loki's like, you must be really desperate to come to me. And so when they're walking around, he does these different personas that he shows them as. And he makes him Sif, and he's like, it's not going to hurt any less when I beat the shit out of you. And then the Captain America cameo. I love this cameo. When I saw this in theaters, I thought that was so cool. I love Cap, man. And seeing him here was great stuff. Although at this point, I'm not sure I was. Oh, wait, no, I liked Cap in Avengers, so I did kind of get won over by him in that movie, not knowing what an amazing film the next one he was going to make was. But we're going to get to that next. All right. Everyone threatens Loki. I want friends like that. I want friends like that are going to grab anyone who's betrayed me and just be like, I'm going to fuck you up. I need friends like that. Anybody want to be my friend like that? And yeah, Thor has to go against Odin. I mean, he freaking commits treason in this to do what's right. Not sure why Odin is so against him on this, but yeah, Thor knows what's best here. Maybe it's a test. Maybe he's testing him. I don't know. I doubt it, but here you go. And I already talked about all this shit. Yes. So Loki teams up with him, and he finally uses his mischief and his ability to change his appearance and all of that, and manipulate the imagery around him to Thor's advantage for once. Tricks him into thinking that he cut Thor's hand off when he was trying to grab his hammers, got them all down, and then when they go to kill him, Loki breaks down the facade. Thor grabs the hammer, beats the shit out of some people. This is right after the elves extract the ether from Jane so she doesn't die. This is what this was all about. And that goes into Malekith there. So he's got the ether back. He's happy. He runs off. And Loki actually genuinely sacrifices his life to save Jane here. This is not a facade here. He does. There's that freaking... that grenade that like implodes on itself and rips everything like back onto itself. It's a gnarly thing. I love it. He actually does. He saves her and then gets pulled into it. And Thor just comes in last second and pulls him out of there. So he really does sacrifice himself. But then he gets stabbed and Loki dies. And then they're stuck on this planet. Good thing they just so happen to be on the one part of the planet that happens to be the place where the portal was from the other. That's convenient as shit. So portals start opening up everywhere. And they're flying around. So the guys come in on their ships. Thor's out there and he's fighting Malekith. They're going back and forth through portals onto different worlds. And his hammer is like fucking flying out of the earth, flying this way, flying that way, trying to get to him. He fucking has to come back, takes a subway train. All that stuff is really funny. Good action sequences there. And then finally Thor sends Malekith back to his own world as this thing crashes on him. Because the Doctor sends this ship fucking falling right onto him. That was great stuff. And then closes it so it's all on his world. Kind of, reminds me a little bit of what happened in Avengers. Thor goes home, rejects the throne because he's too good a man for that. But we find out that not only is it Loki in disguise, but that Thor said a whole bunch of stuff to him about Loki that Loki gets to hear from him about how he died a hero and all this stuff. And then he's got to sit there being like, oh, I'm a dick. I'm a dick. Oh, no. But he's smiling, so he obviously doesn't think that too much. And then, yeah, they give one of the Infinity Stones to the Collector because they already have an Infinity Stone. You don't want to have two too close together. And Thor returns to Jane for their last kiss that we see in this franchise. So, overall, it's good. As I said, I didn't even talk about Malekith at all because he is that generic stock kind of thing. So if that's the reason you don't care for it, and a little bit of splash of Kat Dennings, you don't like her character, I get it. But I just think it's such a visually cool movie. Got a lot of fun humor in it, visually stunning. So it's, it's a good movie. It's not one I'm rushing to rewatch a ton for sure, but it's not one I'm avoiding either. So overall, I dig it. Now moving on to possibly my favorite MCU movie. Let's get on to it.